Symptoms. What are the basic symptoms that we encounter in psychotherapy? In this video, I'm going to lay out for you a list of 11 basic symptoms. These are the basic symptoms that we see when people come to psychotherapy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first lay out the list in kind of common everyday language that you're going to be able to understand. Anxiety, paranoia, self-inadequacy, depression, negativity, lovesickness, self-doubt, pathological guilt, alienation, dissociation, and social awkwardness. Okay? Now I'm going to go through the list and flesh it out just a little bit. Anxiety is self-explanatory. Paranoia, I think, is as well. When I say self-inadequacy, I'm referring to feelings of inferiority, of not being enough, and the technical term associated with this would be narcissism. Now, in the day-to-day language, we typically associate narcissism with grandiosity, but grandiosity is really the defense mechanism against these feelings of self-inadequacy or inferiority. And in the clinical literature, narcissism really means something along the lines of excessive self-preoccupation, and it's always based on feelings of inadequacy. Okay? Now, depression, we all know what that is. Negativity is associated with bitterness, resentment, envy, self-loathing, self-defeating tendencies. Okay? And I call it negativity. It's the best word I've been able to come up with for that. The classic diagnosis associated with negativity is masochism. Okay, masochism. Of course, if you say that in day-to-day language, it's going to be misleading. But in the clinical literature, it really means something like negativity and self-defeating tendencies. Okay, but envy, resentment, bitterness, that's negativity. Lovesickness, another word for that might be heartbreak. Okay, traumatic grief or self-dissolution. Now, the classic diagnosis there is manic depression, all right? And mania, of course, is another defense mechanism against these feelings of traumatic grief or loss, heartbreak, lovesickness. But I like the term lovesickness. We don't use it very much, as it's obviously not a technical term, but I think people can relate to it. And this is not lovesickness only in the realm of romantic love. Could occur in any realm where there's terrible loss and traumatic grief. Okay. Now, the next one is self-doubt. That would be associated with obsession, and pathological guilt is associated with compulsion. Okay, alienation is the classic diagnosis would be schizoid disorder or schizoid conditions or dynamics. Okay, and then dissociation is already a technical term. Social awkwardness is associated with autism in the broad modern sense of that term. Okay. Now I'm going to show you a two-dimensional graph, and we can plot all of these symptoms on that graph. On the up-down axis, the y-axis, we go from the more physically oriented issues on the bottom to the more mentally or spiritually oriented issues up top. The left to right axis, or the x-axis, we have more negative or incoming kinds of issues on the left, and the more positive or outgoing type issues on the right. Okay? You see that? And if you take a look at this graph and you understand how these symptoms all fit in there, it gives you a kind of model of personality from the pathological side of things. Of course, on the other side of all of these symptoms are strengths of character. And so when you struggle with one of these symptoms, it may really be that on the other side of that struggle is a great strength that you have. And that's the bright side of all of this. Okay, but I want to keep this video short. Just really wanted to give you an overview of this material. And in future videos, I'll go over each of these symptoms in turn, and we can examine them, come to understand them, and you're going to find it very useful